Let's get ready to rumble!
September the 24th, WBA interim champion LEIGH defends his belt against MAURICIO LARA. Now this isn't one of them interim fights where the interim title holder fights some lame caliber of opposition. This is as good as any world title fight, junior belt, higher tier belt or whatever. Has to be said. Wood coming off that spectacular victory against Michael Conlan. Lara made his name by knocking out Josh Warrington in a non-title fight in 2021. Warrington looked shook to death in the rematch but escaped with a technical draw. Elaborate use of the head, let's just say that. And Lara knocked out Emilio Sanchez this year. This is what you call a barn burner. 17 knockouts in 24 wins for Lara, 2 losses, 1 draw. Wood has 16 knockouts in 26 wins, 2 losses. And on the undercard they've got Maxie Hughes versus the comebacking Kid Galahad. I'm looking forward to that one too. Who have you got? Lara or Wood? Who you got in this? I have to break it down a little more first. This is a really good main event. Did Derek Chisora have a point here? He said that Joshua must be willing to get knocked out to defeat Usyk in rematch. If Joshua gets knocked out, it's good for him, said Chisora. If he loses on points, he's going to kick himself for the next 20 years. But if he gets knocked out, he can say, I got knocked out. I can't do anything after I got knocked out. Derek says when he got knocked out by Dillian, he didn't complain. He just dealt with the fact he got knocked the F out. It's better to go out that way than losing on points because you didn't gamble enough. I'm paraphrasing the last bit of what he said. Now, looking at AJ's reaction post-fight, does Derek have a point? Eddie Hearn post-fight revealed what Joshua was going through in his dressing room. He went through the whole fight with Robert Garcia. He was saying, I should have done this, I should have done that. Why didn't I do this? He was shouting. He was just devastated to lose. Maybe Derek has a point, but is Derek saying you can't have no regrets if you lose by knockout? Because you can, obviously. Let's say you walk into a sucker punch that you shouldn't have got hit with. But Joshua just isn't wired to be as reckless as Derek Chisora in the ring. So even though they're friends, their philosophies about pugilism are always going to be a little different, aren't they? It's a shame what's happened to the middleweight division. A combination of the networks and promoters not working together and the alphabet body making these junior titles have actually ruined arguably the best division in boxing. Now, due to obesity, perhaps people getting bigger, I'm not sure if the middleweight division represents the average size man as it used to. But it's a great weight class. At 11 stone 6, you probably get the closest balance to excellence of speed and power punching. Andrade is going to relinquish the WBO belt. He's not going to fight Johnny Beck. Munguia has turned down mandatory shots. He's going to fight John Ryder next at 168. Charlo, he wouldn't fight Andrade in a unification. You know, Charlo's career is looking a little bit of a mess. He was going to fight Selecki next, which nobody wanted to see. Then he got injured. And then he's got the domestic issues with wifey, which didn't indicate this is a very happy period in his career. And Jamal probably didn't want all of his business out there like she put it out there. Obviously, Golovkin's going to fight at 168 against Canelo. He opted to stay inactive for way over a year before taking on Murata in a unification. Johnny Beck, apart from the fringe Eastern European fan base, no one is really checking for him like that. Wins over Rob Brandt and Endam are not going to put you on the map. And it's a duck. Andrade has ducked Johnny Beck, but let's keep it real. Who is Johnny Beck going to fight in his first defense as full champion? If they're paying out 200 grand per opponent right now, or 100 grand, or whatever they're paying out, you get back what you pay for. Mediocre fights that give Johnny Beck no profile. The Johnny Beck friendly media and his fan base are talking like their fighter has been hard done by and he's the boogeyman. Well, what they're failing to acknowledge, right, all what they're saying there is propaganda to build him up. without him fighting anyone elite, because they're not paying out for the opponents, right? Remember, they're fighting at world title level right now. If you want to fight at world title level and get championship fights on the high-end scale of championship fights, why ain't they paying out? This is all strategic. They're planning to do what Golovkin did. Fight a lot of low-key opponents and maybe have him fight 3 times a year, 4 times a year, and keep him visible. I know the strategy. And they'll keep doing this until the public pressure gets too much for whoever the elite guy is around the weight class Johnny Beck is fighting, like when Canelo came under pressure to fight Golovkin. But as for them paying out for these elite fighters to cover a Canelo purse or an elite purse, it could be a long wait. You know, they've done well out of the deal. They shouldn't complain, right? You've built up this boogeyman bullshit because Andrade didn't take the fight. When in reality, you have to pay if you want to play. Until I hear that Bob Arum is putting up offers for good fighters, elite fighters, to fight Johnny Beck, and they're turning them down, it's all bullshit. Let's keep it real. The real boogeymen of boxing, you go and do a historical check, had beat better people than Ndam and Rob Brandt, and had more than 8 or 9 fights. He's a privileged fighter. The fact that he's a full world champion right now, with that resume, he's privileged. He's not no boogeyman guy who's been struggling hard to get fights. Bull crap. That's what I call it. But I do like watching him fight, and I think he could potentially be a good fighter. I do like watching him fight. So they're playing as much politics as anyone else, but they think they're clever and that people can't see through it. I saw through it a long time ago. Andrade's taking a lot of criticism for dropping the belt rather than fighting Johnny Beck, but the sanctioning bodies have gave him the option, either drop the belt, Johnny Beck will be upgraded to full champion, and it looks like Demetrius Andrade is going to fight Zach Parker for the vacant WBO belt at 168. Is he doing that because that's the easier fight? One would assume so. But if you take an honest look at the picture, the alphabet bodies are allowing novices to become interim champions, then full champions. Then they're allowing more established champions like Andrade to swerve out of mandatory obligations and then just fight for the belt at the next weight class. And everybody's taking advantage of the lapse standards that are being set. It looks like Andrade is frustrated by trying to get Canelo Golovkin fights and not being able to obtain them. Trying to get fights with Charlo, then having to split with Matchroom. And now it looks like he's going to try a little cherry picking until he can get one of them fights. I tell you what, he better perform against Zach Parker. He better perform, or that criticism is going to get louder and louder and louder. Better perform. After dropping your title, and yes, ducking Johnny Beck, going up to 168, he needs to perform. And knockouts bring amnesia. If he can knock Zach Parker out, put a real convincing display in, people ain't going to forget that he ducked Johnny Beck, but that's the best damage control he can do in what is not a good look for him. Let's keep it real. I would have preferred him not relinquishing his belt. I would have preferred that. I wasn't happy when James DeGale relinquished his IBF strap rather than fight Usyk Rematch. I wasn't happy about that. You know, it's always good to see champions build on their legacy and attempt to get as much title defenses in as they can. Now, take it or leave it. If I saw Bob Arum or a representative from Top Rank had a receipt that they offered Andrade X amount of millions, a good paycheck to fight Johnny Beck and he turned it down, I would tear him apart. But let's face it, Golovkin avoided Andrade at 160. Canelo, Charlo, Munguia. A bit harsh to single out Andrade at this moment. I'll just keep it real. But 160, not looking very good right now. Not looking good. And you hope that everybody connected, networks, promoters and fighters start getting their ish together. And while we're talking about Andrade, I'm going to ask people, if you're going to quote me, either quote something that you can reference to me, that 2 minutes into the video or half an hour into the video you said this and said that. Either quote that or don't quote me at all. Don't quote me without a receipt. I don't like being quoted without a receipt. I'm not going to speculate on what you think I said or think I meant. Either have the receipt or forget about it. Now, as for me defending fighters like Andrade Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, whether they're boring or not, but I'm not doing the same for Usyk. Now, in the last video, I explained I'm not really talking for myself. I will still buy Usyk pay-per-views if I like the matchup. I explained that some fights are not going to be as exciting as others. But if you're talking unifications and undisputed, these fights have to be fought. All I'm saying is, I'm not telling you what style to like, yeah? I'm not telling you what style to like. That's not my job. I'm saying if your fighter is a championship fighter, he should fight any style in a unification or an undisputed fight, whether it's a style that doesn't suit his style necessarily or a crowd-friendly, crowd-pleasing style. The fight should be fought. And it's as simple as that. Anything else you're trying to quote from me is just some bullshit, yeah? So if you heard me defending Andrade, it's because whether it's a Golovkin, a Charlo, we should have seen unifications. Whether it's a Munguia, you should have took your mandatory shot. Just like you could argue that Andrade should have took on his mandatory in Janibek. But with all these options that the sanctioning bodies are offering and all these deals that are being made between promoters and sanctioning bodies, this is what we have. And the 160-pound division is a mess. It is a mess. And my last word on it, if Tyson Fury, in my opinion, wants to be respected as a great champion, of course he should fight Usyk, regardless if Usyk is boring to some, or he's from the Ukraine and he can't speak the lingo, he should fight Usyk. Simple as.
So the stage is yours. Go for it, Tyson.
No, I just wanted to let everybody know. Everyone keeps asking me about this fight with this Ukrainian guy. Are you going to fight? Are you going to come back? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? I've made it quite clear that I'm retired from boxing. I'm very happy doing that. However, I will come back, but it has to be for an obscene amount of money. Because, let's face it, it's not Anthony Joshua, which will have done the fight for free in England. It's some foreigner who no one really cares of.
I'm going to get back to the audio, but some foreigner. That's what the BNP and National Front used to say in the 70s and 80s. That type of language. But it goes unchecked by the people who constantly bring up what they perceive as racism from other fighters. Ironic. The Gypsy King who likes to talk about how his people are racially discriminated against.
Xenophobic. Having or showing a dislike of or prejudice against people from other countries.
And that's it. I don't mind chucking a dog a bone, or don't want to chuck in the full fucking dog zone. Listen, if they want me to fight this unknown quantity and give him an opportunity of legendary status in trying to beat me, then they got to pay for that. And what I got to say is, they've got a week. It's August the 24th today.
But Tyson, you're a big boy, and they're big boys, and the money's going to sort itself out.
1 week. 1 week.
Yeah, I know. I love all these ultimatums, Tyson, but let's assume you're going to get the money.
With proof of funds, okay?
Yeah.
No dodgy offers.
I know.
In writing, proof of funds.
But you've worked with Frank, and you've worked with Bob, so you know the people that you're working with, right? So there's a distinct possibility you're going to get the money that you want. So let's move on from the money side of things, because you're not all about the money, Tyson. You've told us that yourself. You're about the fight game. So with that in mind...
Hold on a minute, Simon.
Go on.
This fight is purely about money. I'm happily retired. I don't need money. I've got plenty of money. That's one thing.
Well, then what's the point? If it's not about money, why is it about money?
I tell you why. Because if they want the big Gypsy King to fight, they've got to pay obscene amount of money. It's the biggest fight in the world, and it needs to be the biggest payday in the world. However, Mayweather got 400 million for Pacquiao. I want 500 million for Usyk. There we go.
So you're saying to us this morning, Tyson, you want £500 million to fight Alexander Usyk?
Yeah, no problem. But I know they've got the money. They've offered Tiger Woods £1 billion before.
When he says they've offered Tiger Woods £1 billion before, he's talking about the Saudi Arabians, of course. And Greg Norman here is saying they offered Tiger Woods 700 to 800 million to play over there, and he turned it down. That's what Tyson Fury's talking about. Here's the thing, though. Bob Arum can't control Tyson Fury. But if Fury was serious about this, getting money from the Saudis, why would he be coming out saying, yo, you gave Tiger Woods 700 million, 800 million, give me the money? How are they going to respond to that? These people are serious businessmen. So you have to wonder how serious about the fight he is, or serious about himself he is. What did he say on the audio? It's all about business. Well, he's not exactly conducting business like a mature adult here. Why have you gone to radio screaming and shouting to the Saudis to give you money?
Tyson, one thing we do know about you, though, mate, is you're a consummate professional. You always get yourself into great shape for fights. This surely is a fight that you want to take on. You want to fight Usyk, I presume.
I have no real interest in Usyk. Some man that no one can even say his name. A pumped up middleweight. He just beat AJ. It ain't my fault that he's gone and battered AJ, some bodybuilder, You know, it ain't my fault that that's happened twice in a row. It's not to do with me. However, there's only ever been one dauntless in these waters, and that's me. There only ever has been me, all along. They try to compete, but when they compete, they get beat at the highest level. And that just shows you, there's no disrespect to Joshua, because he's a 25 and 3 fighter, or 20, whatever he is. But at top level world-class boxing, he just can't cut it.
But Tyson, Usyk wants to fight you. If you don't take him on, people will say, well, Tyson Fury's running scared of Usyk.
Yeah, I don't mind. They can say what they want. People can say what they want. This fight is purely about business. It's about nothing else. And if they want to see this fight happen, then they've got to pay for it. And I'm not talking to the general public, because it's not up to them to put that money up.
Yeah.
It's not up to Frank Warren. It's up for some big people. They want to put a big site fee up, put this fight on in their country, the biggest undisputed title fight in 30 years since Lewis fought whoever.
I don't know. The Saudis haven't put that type of money up for any boxing event. They've got money to burn, but it doesn't mean they're going to burn it like that. These are serious businessmen. They're not just some uneducated dudes who have a lot of money to throw around. 500 million? So basically, if they don't come up with a site fee, this fight don't happen. This fight don't happen. And look, maybe this is a negotiation tactic. Ask for 500 and hopefully get 200, or maybe even 100. $100 million or pound site fee is astronomical. And if he pulls it off, yo, you probably have to say he's smarter than what we're giving him credit for. Now, it is the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, so there's that incentive for the Saudis to dip into their resources and make it happen. The thing is, though, on the 26th, he's got to make a decision whether he keeps the WBC strap or not. But then again, it's the WBC, so they may flip-flop. Probably will flip-flop. But if he retires on Saturday and gives up the belt, then the fight is dead in the water, isn't it? But if he keeps the belt and doesn't get the 500 million or an offer that he's satisfied with, what's he going to do? Fight Derek Chisora? If he makes that fight, it's going to flop horribly. There's going to be a massive backlash against Tyson Fury. But he doesn't care. I'll tell you what, Frank Warren can tell himself that Anthony Joshua is the B-side to the likes of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois. But the facts are, when Joshua returns to the ring, hopefully in December, and fills out the O2, if he chooses to go that route, maybe go back down to £19.99 pay-per-views, or maybe just give us a few subscription fights. That would be nice. Since he's in rehabilitation. And when these events are a success, and Frank has to witness it's a success, and Parker and Joyce doesn't even move the needle compared to AJ's comeback bouts, he still has way more commercial value than Joyce and Daniel Dubois. Now, he might not want to accept that. That's the truth. And here's the thing. He says there's good fights for Joshua if he returns against Joyce and Parker as the B-side. Joshua's not going to take B-side against them guys. It's going to be Joyce and Dubois who lose out. Joshua can get top 10 opponents who will acquiesce to the B-side when they're getting 4 or 5 million to share the ring with him. Is Parker and Joyce getting 4 or 5 million? Frank? You're kidding yourself.
You're playing yourself. You're playing yourself.
I mean, okay, let's say Daniel or Joyce become champion, or we get in an eliminator situation with Joshua, and then we have to do the thing like with Tyson and Dillian, where we go back and add up how much their last 3 or 4 purses are. What, Joshua's still the B-side, Frank?